Hello, friends, and welcome to Real Life Conversations for Christian Coaches. I'm Teresa McCloy.
And I'm Erica Vinson. We are so grateful that you are listening in today. Here on the podcast, each week, we want to have real conversations to help you grow successful and sustainable coaching businesses and yet stay grounded to what truly matters.
We'll share some practical tips, some honest stories, and our own experience as coaches, as well as inviting some great guests on the show to support you as a coach to live from a place of rest, not rush.
So, whether you're just getting started or you have been coaching for years, you're in the right place. Let's dive into today's conversation.
So, Erica, we've been in this series about the 7 P's of business for Christian coaches or those in the helping profession that are coming from a faith perspective. And we have looked at these 7 different P's. We've done an overview of them. And then in these kind of episodes that we've been in, we've been looking at each one of them a little bit more in depth. So, we've looked at purpose already, we've looked at plan. If you're listening in and you've not been a part of this series, you can go back in the last couple of episodes and check those out. You can also download a free resource that we have for this series. And you just go to thereallifeprocess.com/7, SEVEN. And you might want that resource as for the P that we're talking about today, because there's several different things that we're going to explore. Today, we're going to talk about the P of products. What is it that you're actually putting out into the marketplace? For most coaches or people working in spiritual direction or any other type of helping profession, this is not actually a product. It's really more of a service. But to say too that you might have some products that you're selling, you might have some physical products. But normally, most people are focusing on service. So, Erica, why don't you kind of walk us through what do we mean by products and services? And then we're going to dive into kind of what that is to develop and how you get it out to your audience and some of those types of steps.
First, I want to say, as I was reviewing even the content, the framework, just a behind the scenes little spoiler for our listeners, this was not part of the original framework. And as I looked at it, and if you download the free guide that Teresa just mentioned, you'll see it as well. There are the 2 that we've already done, the purpose, the plan. And then there's this one that goes right in the middle that stretches all the way across. When you did this content originally, Teresa, it was the 6 P's of business. And then you went back and said, but you really don't have a business unless you have a product. And now it's a through line that until you get that you can become stuck in the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
So now it's significant.
You can know all there is to know about a business. And we see this, right, with a lot of people that we work with, especially if they're brand new. They dive deep into knowledge and information and all of that. And then, we're like, okay, let's go. And they're like, oh, I have to have something that's actually something that I'm trading time for money for to have a business or even a nonprofit. There's a service that you put out. You may have raised funds, you may have raised support, but there's a service that you're providing. And we have to work through how that goes out into the world. So you're absolutely right. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. And this P of business, as you said, products, services, whatever the word is that you resonate with, there's so many key verbs that really help us when we're looking at this P. So the first 2 are creating and clarifying. What is the transformation that you offer? Why would people want to work with you? Why are they paying you? And then it goes down and we're going to be talking about defining that product and service. So you can hear the clarity that comes developing the product and service, defining the audience. So who is this product actually for? How could you imagine that person holding or really what you're designing? How will your audience know? Is one of the questions that we ask in this. How will your audience purchase? So even if you have a great product, but you don't know how they're going to purchase it, and then what's the evaluation? So is this really working? And is this actually benefiting those you're serving?
And I think when we think of it, even us coming through a lens of how God might put this with you as a partner out into the world. I love the passage from First Peter 4:10. We've tried to have a scripture verse around each of these. And it says this, each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace. So what I love about this passage is that each of us are unique. And I just wrote actually last week on my email that I send out on Fridays about this idea that we can get in our heads of somebody else already does that. Somebody else already does coaching for the specific audience that I feel drawn to. Somebody else already coaches with women, or somebody else already coaches with men, or does this kind of group or that kind of group. Somebody else already uses the real life process. We have almost 100 coaches now. And so you can, well, they don't need me to learn that process. But what I love about this is it says, whatever gifts you have received. So your uniqueness is what makes your products and services unique. It's you. Somebody
Mhm.
else is already probably selling the widget. Somebody else has coaching, spiritual direction, but they're not you. And so that's the first part of this that I want you to remember is the transformation that you bring is unique and different for the people that God will put into your life. So love that passage of scripture. But let's dive into some of the bullet points that we have around products and services. And the first one is this idea, Erica, of creating a service is an understanding of what you offer to customers and defining your product, and then you can make it sell. So, what's the problem that you solve? And again, the download may be really helpful for you in this so that you have a place to write these things down. And if you've been coaching for a while, I think this is a great review to say, what is the problem that I'm solving? So, Erica, say a little bit about this idea of solving a problem.
One of the ways we started asking this question early at the real life process was really to listen to people that were starting to interact with us and listen to the phrases that they were talking about. My hair is on fire. I'm spinning so many plates. And so we use these little metaphors or analogies often. And it's like, what does that mean? I don't have control of my calendar, all of those types of things. And so a question we might ask when we're looking at identifying the problem is really, what specific issue does
Mhm.
the product or service that you're designing solve? And often for me, I'll start and say, what's the benefit? If someone works with me as a coach, what is the benefit that they're going to walk away with? And then sometimes that can help you get back to the problem too.
And a way that you might do this, we talked about this on the last episode, is to use a mind map. We love the tool of the mind map just to get in that brainstorming place. So just write down in the center circle, what's the problem I solve? Start just writing down things about it, phrases that you hear people say, and listen to your heart. Discern in this too. Do I want to solve that problem? Do I
Mhm.
want to coach around that particular topic? And some of this really goes towards marketing. We're going to assume, for the sake of today's conversation, that yes, you could coach anyone about anything, but the more specific you get about your services, the more marketable you are. So, yes, we know that you have the skills, or we're going to assume that you have the skills and know that coaching in general can solve any problem, but we're starting to dive down into. So, a couple of questions there that you could answer. What specific issue do you solve? And then maybe mind map around that so you can help to explain it. The next thing is to actually develop it out and say, what makes your product or service unique? And what are some ways that we might be able to do that, Erica, when you think about just narrowing it down to actual language?
Some of it, you can use that great mind mapping tool again, but listing out what are some of the features as you connect with others and you're starting to have conversations. What are the things that you've noticed that they're saying is a benefit of conversations with you or times that you've spent with them in coaching? And so adding those things in because we always have a limited perspective. And when we listen and grab stories from others that have rubbed shoulders with us and we have the privilege of working with, we can learn a lot. And then really just being willing to go, what's different? As you said, somebody else out there, yes, there's other coaches. Even the tool of AI, I've heard coaches say, am I going to become obsolete? And the answer is no, because what I learned this way back in family ministry days when we were in the church together in Effingham, Illinois. And we were this little, almost country church in some ways. And we'd go to these big conferences in Chicago and other places in Dallas and come back. And I'd think, I don't have the budget for that. And I certainly can't reproduce the platform that they built. But what you cannot replicate is authenticity. And so, what's different and unique about the authentic ways that you're present with clients that they actually receive some created value?
And I think a part of this, I love what you said there too, is looking back in your own history and your own story and saying, what life experiences do I have that I could pull forward? Many times we are wanting to serve and help a client who is maybe 10 years behind us or 5 years behind us on the journey. And so we're looking at our former self and saying, oh, my heart's desire is to bring that forward for others so that I can help walk with them because maybe you didn't have anyone that walked with you. So when you look at those, what makes me different? It's you, it's your unique things. One thing I'll say about that though is sometimes we try to solve too many things. And so it's picking out how can I talk about this a little bit succinctly so you have this whole mind map of lots of things you could do, but what is it you want to do that you could start in with, bring some clarity around just 5 or 6 things that are like, this is what makes me different. The next part of this is really then focusing on, you mentioned that word, those benefits. So we want to turn it from being about what you want to do and what's unique about you to what benefits the client or the customer that we're serving. How does this help them?
Yeah. And so, a great question. You just named it and clarified it for us. How does this help the customer or the client? And that is the benefit. And then to go from there and actually take and start to put some emphasis on what are the things that matter most to those that you have the circle of influence to make an impact with, and how can they, how are they going to receive the message? How can you ensure, that they're front and center when you're speaking and designing that core message? So often, and we could have a whole different conversation about branding and marketing, but so often we go, what are my brand colors and what's my website going to look like? When it's really this core message that we're inviting you to look at with product and service and saying, how are they going to make a connection between what you're offering and how it's going to help them?
Okay, if this takes a while, this is a work in progress. This is not, oh, it's a once and done. That's the other thing I think you and I hear so much as we walk with coaches in growing a business. It's like, I'm going to build it right and it will be done. I'm going to put it out there. That's why I caution people, don't jump too fast into things like websites and branding and colors and all of that. You're going to have to live with it for a while and live into those benefits. You're going to want to coach with some people, see how that resonates. If you've been coaching for a while and you're trying something new in this space or taking a little bit of a pivot, you're going to try it for a while before you really get down to what are the benefits. You're going to coach with somebody and go, wow, I didn't see that they would have that benefit or that takeaway. And so you're just going to keep running maybe a Google Doc or something that goes, what is it that they're resonating with? What is it that I want to add of, oh, that's a benefit? Because then this moves into the next part, which is defining the audience. Okay, I know what benefit that I think this person is going to get, but now I want to go try that out. I want to go get in front of an audience. Who are they? How do we work into that, Erica? How do we start to look at the audience itself?
There is even a process of finding a client persona and thinking about who do I love to serve? And so you mentioned that great nugget of wisdom to go, sometimes it's a younger version of yourself. And so you can think about who was I? And if I had myself or someone like me that would have walked along, what would that look like? But asking yourself questions about, do I enjoy serving? both men and women? Do I enjoy serving young people? Is it people then, that are in transition or they're walking? I coach in a couple of different areas. I coach young people, but I love coaching adults too. And so what do they look like? So where do they hang out? What's keeping them up at night? And so there's all kinds of questions you can start to ask, but the more clarity you can get on what that person looks like and actually imagine kind of them in front of you, it's so helpful as you're defining this audience.
Yeah, you could use, this is where you can get creative and play around with it. Like you can go into something like AI or Canva or whatever and create your ideal client. What do they look like? What are their age categories? Maybe you need a visual around that to just kind of say, who are they and where are they at? Because the more you keep them top of mind, the more you will notice them when you're out and about, when you're in online spaces, wherever your market might be. And I want to say this, your ideal people, your ideal audience are in both places. They're right in front of you locally, and they also might be in some of those online spaces where you have community. The second part of this, I think, is, and you mentioned this earlier, because all of this kind of goes together. We picked it apart, so to speak, and put it in some lists and some questions, but is listening to the language that they use. You mentioned some of the phrases that early on that we have, oh, my hair's on fire, or my calendar's a mess, I'm so busy, those types of things. And this is where I can get a little bit on my soapbox, because what happens the longer that you hang out in these helping professions of spiritual direction and coaching and maybe therapy or walking with others in your church space, those types of things, the more you get into language like, oh, I'm helping people find their purpose or creating a vision. None of that is wrong, but it's not usually the language that our clients and our audience uses. They're like, oh, I am so busy, or this frustrates me, or I wished I could solve blank problem. They're not, when we talk about the flowery words of purpose and vision and life mission, those are the end result that they'll get to, but it's not usually the question they're asking in the middle of the night. They have a very specific problem. They don't know that the bigger answer is all of these things. So that's where just listening and having some conversation with people, what's frustrating you right now in life? Oh, my adult kids, I'm having so much trouble communicating with them, or I moved into a new season as a grandma and I don't know what to do. Those are very specific. They're not saying, I've lost my life purpose now that I'm in an empty nester. That's not what they're saying. So this is where listening to that language and again, maybe using a mind map can be so important and so helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as we're looking at this next one, defining this audience, this is all part of this. We're just taking you through it step by step. There's this third step of then compare and contrast. Go look at others that are doing what you want to do, or the audience that you think, who is out there that is doing it well. Go check out their website, learn from them, have them be someone that you go, oh, I love that language. Know what your competition, so to speak, is doing. I don't look at them as my competition, but that's kind of sometimes what we can feel, but use that knowledge. Erica, what are some ways that you think someone might be able to do this compare and contrast part of things?
And would we be willing to look at them, maybe not as competitors, but perhaps as collaborators? As we look at, and I think we've designed that, we found that people need that as solopreneurs. That's part of our network community. And so we see so much energy happen when conversations are created. And so just being willing to reach out and say, hey, would you have a conversation with me? I saw your website. I loved what you said here. And I just love to hear the heart behind it. So many people are delighted just to hop on, have a quick coffee chat, and the energy you can gain from collaborating just in that simple conversation. I think that's the benefit of having a coach as well. And so
Yes.
using that coaching space to sit down and say, oh, I'm noticing these things. I want to develop something that's unique to me because I think that's what's sustainable for us, not when we're out doing someone else's. thing, which is what we love about the real life process. It's been used in so many varieties of ways because it's not a hard fast. You have to do it this way. It just gives a framework.
And when we see our coaches come together in our community and feed off of one another in that, they don't look at it as competition. They look at it as collaboration. And that kind of moves us into the next point, as you talked about this particular step of really going from here's the language, here's my people, down to what is called sometimes your unique selling proposition. What's the features and benefits now that you can put together in a short, sweet, memorable statement? And you mentioned working with a coach. This may be a coaching session for you. This may be a place where you go, I need a coach around this. I need to work through this and have someone else ask me some good questions. And then as you create that description of your products and services, you might have more than one service that you offer. You may say, oh, I might want to do this as a group program, but then I could also offer it to individuals. I might be able to take this same unique selling proposition and make it into a workshop. So there may be several ways that you can create some streams of revenue from that as you define the audience that you're to. Now you've got it narrowed down. I'll give you an example from ours. You could do a workshop around the stewarding of time, the management of time. That's something almost every audience we have found wants to learn about. That's one of our components in the real life process. It's just a small portion of what we have, but you might be able to take what you've developed, what you're going to do, and pull out just a small part of that to make it a standalone or an introductory type offer. But you need to do this other work first before you can pull something out. If you only offer that, they're going to leave going, okay, what else do you have? So you want to have the complete service developed before you pull out a piece of that.
I love that when you talk about this unique selling proposition, it's like it can be short, sweet, memorable. I love that language. But knowing the bigger picture, I think allows you to really focus on different seasons. You may have a rhythm of doing workshops, those types of things, or a number of times you're wanting to speak. But all of that is part of the framework of your business. And so being able to clearly name what you're offering currently is huge. Because sometimes when we have a variety of things and we just keep listing, people almost get that glazed over, like,
They do.
I don't even know what to choose now. And I love, we started out, Lindsay Sturkey, who's our spiritual formation director now, but she did a marketing role with us. And she said, have clear, actionable steps at the end of each thing that you do and give people an option. It's not wrong to have choices, but make sure that you do have a clear, actionable takeaway or way to move
I would
forward.
agree. Start with this thing that you want to practice the most, that you want to get clarity around, and invite that first. And then in some of those one-to-one conversations, you might go, I could do this or I could do that, but develop that core product or service first. The last couple parts of this, how will the audience know about that product or service? How will they purchase it? These are where you get into more of that marketing piece. How will you talk about it out in the marketplace? And I want to say the best way is conversation. You just mentioned that. Just having conversations with people, especially if you're brand new into this field, then it's just, hey, can I have 15 minutes of your time? I want to tell you about what I'm doing now. Oh, maybe you've transitioned out of a full-time work, or you're back in the work world with this. And so you just want to hop on a conversation with people, or you meet them at your local convenience store and you're like, hey, what are you up to now? Billy? And you go into your unique selling proposition in a very casual conversation way. I've actually just done some training as a coach, and I'm working with, and you give them kind of that scenario, but put it out there by word of mouth would be my first thing. Then you might go to some social platforms and start to talk about it there, whether LinkedIn to me is one of the best, or Facebook, or whatever those are. You might do some emailing. And maybe the last thing is start to develop that website where you now have some more language because you've had some conversations. I would not recommend it be the first thing that you do, Your website designers would love for you to do that first, but I think you need some research and things. So goes the same if you've been coaching for a while and you're going to develop something new. Don't just go change your website automatically. Try it out for a while, have some conversation. And this sounds like a no-brainer, Erica, but I know you've walked through this, is the crazy thing of how are they going to buy from me? How are you going to exchange money? What was your experience like when you first became a coach and you had to figure that part out?
Well, it's so important, and I equate it to walking into a store, picking up an item of clothing and saying, I want this, it fits, I tried it on, how can I purchase this? We would never walk up to the counter and then go, well, I don't know, I could take cash or, I mean, maybe card. We would never. And so, why would we expect someone, you have this great, unique selling proposition, you've thought about where your clients are hanging out, you've got this messaging, and then you go, yeah, but I don't know how you'd pay me for that or what I'd charge for that. And confidence comes when we're able to practice sharing. A great selling coach that we've worked with sometimes says, what can you say out your mouth? So you don't want to, it's not about charging some astronomical price, but you do need to decide what is this service value that I'm starting with today? It can always increase. And then how am I collecting or exchanging money? Money is a tool. It's a resource. So am I doing that electronically and consistently? I think that's the biggest thing, is be consistent. I've had clients, especially those I meet with in person, that say, can I write you a check? And so do you accept checks? How would you like to do that? Or do you prefer for them even to pay you online so that you can have that consistent record? But just knowing those and pre-deciding them helps you to show up as a confident business owner.
Absolutely. And I think you just said it with consistency. And this is a whole nother conversation. Each of these things, we're just giving you an overview because when it comes to collecting money, you do want to be consistent so that there's good records and all those types of things. So there's things we recommend and things we wouldn't in that regard. But if you pre-decide what you're going to do, you'll feel much more comfortable asking when somebody says, yeah, I'd love to work together. Great. I will send you an invoice with a link for you to pay online. That will be the next step. And as soon as you've done that, this will happen, those types of things. All of these things that we've talked through today on products and services are things that you could say, in the next 90 days, I'm going to work on this piece. So last week we talked about plan and what do you need to do in the next 90 days? And you may be going, oh, I've got some work to do around my products or services. Do a mind map, create a plan. Maybe it's just about the taking of payment. Maybe it's about your unique selling proposition. Maybe that's what you're going to focus on in the next 30 days. And you're going to break that down into some actionable steps. Or maybe the very thing that you need to do is the last part of this process, and that's to evaluate. Maybe you need to spend the next couple of months just evaluating all your services and products. Maybe you have too many and you've gained a lot of products or services. I did this about a year ago and made the decision, actually, while I was on sabbatical, to let go of some services that we were offering and really hone in and focus really on helping Christian coaches grow their businesses. And it wasn't easy to make that decision. It created some revenue for me and all of those things. But when I evaluated it, passion wise, what I loved doing, where I liked showing up in the world, how it fit my season of life. So there's a lot of evaluation that you can do even around products and services. So those are the steps. We flew through that. This is a pretty deep one. This might be something you want to talk to a coach about. You might want to reach out to Erica or myself and say, hey, I want to have some coaching conversations around that. You can find both of us in the show notes as well. But we just encourage you to take this P of products and services and give it some attention that it needs so that you feel confident in what you're putting out to the world.
Absolutely. It's such a key part. And just having that rhythm of evaluation, and I would add the word celebration.
Absolutely.
What are you already doing really well in this area? And so don't miss that opportunity too. And you can hear from others, check in with those that you've connected with. What's been most transforming for you as you've walked the journey of coaching? It's not about asking pridefully for
No.
the attaboys. but you want to hear what's transforming in their life because it does help you to notice what's making an impact as you're present with them.
Absolutely, for sure. Part of evaluation can be definitely celebration. I love that you always remind me of that. And also hearing from those you've worked with what's gone well and letting them help you to celebrate those things and evaluate those things as well. Well, as we wrap up today's episode, I do have something I want to share that we have coming up. If you're listening in real time with us, it is about the middle of July in 2025. And we have an online summit that we are so excited that we're going to be doing in August of this year. So, August 2025, on August 14th and 15th, we are going to be hosting an online summit, and it's called Rested Success. And it's really about success begins with tending to your inner life. We can't show up well for others in this work that we do unless we're tending to that inner life, that being side. So I've invited some really good friends of mine to come and join me on this journey. Erica's going to be there. Lindsay Sturkey's going to be there, as well as about 7 other keynote speakers that are going to come and share how they do this in their everyday, ordinary life. You can register for that summit at thereallifeprocess.com/summit. And you can go online and you can register and come. We have prizes and giveaways and all kinds of things that we will be doing on that summit. It's both days, the 14th and the 15th, from 10 a.m. to 2:30 Eastern time. So right there in the middle of the day, we hope we can catch your lunch hour. We'll have ways too that if you can't be with us live the whole time, that you can get the recordings and be a part of that as well. Just wanted to say that before we hopped off today. Erica, thanks for walking through products and services with me. I know this is a big topic. There's a lot here. We recommend you get the download and just follow through those questions and answer that as well. Anything else you would add today before we hop off?
Just an encouragement that as we walk through these things, know that these are things we're working through. So we want you to walk through what you're working through and know that we're doing the same. And so it's tools that have helped us. And so we're excited to hear how they impact you as well.
Yeah, we're always a work in progress. So we don't have it all figured out. But like we said earlier, we've come through the journey, and our heart's desire is just to help you along the way and partner with you as well. So remember, friends, that every ordinary day has an extraordinary moment. You just have to look for them. Have a great week, everyone. And we'll be back next week with another P from the 7 Ps of business.
We'll see you soon.